Podcast Answer Man, episode number 114. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Podcast Answer Man. Cliff Ravenscraft here. And this week, I'm going to be playing just a little bit of feedback from last week's episode about what to use as a URL. Got an email that came in about the webinar I recently did and a question about it. Wayne Henderson asks me about a plugin for WordPress that I think is very useful for podcasters, and we also have a little program that two friends of mine, Wayne Henderson and Jeff Roney, have been working on, as well as a couple other podcasters, getting things underway of what could possibly become a podcasting community movement. But I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and get things started off with Evan Agee, who called in and gave some great feedback on the idea of whether or not to use the word podcast in your URL. Evan, go ahead.
Hey Cliff, Evan here from AG Design and the Lost Mystery Podcast with Anton and Evan. I was calling for some feedback on episode 113 about artwork and domain names, and my feedback was specifically about domain names. I know you were talking about how, whether or not you should have podcast in your URL for your website, and I wanted to call in with some feedback on the pros side of doing that. One thing to keep in mind is search engine optimization for your website. Obviously, all of us podcasters want our shows to come up when someone searches for a phrase that's related. And for mine, I'll use this example. We have a Lost-related podcast, and more than anything, if someone searched for Lost Podcast on Google, I wanted our site to come up. So knowing that, it's important to keep in mind that if you have a phrase, let's say someone searches for Lost Podcast, you want to do your best to, obviously your content of your site should use those keywords Lost and podcast, but if your domain uses it, it kind of takes everything to the next level, because if you keep in mind that what Google is looking for is repetition and a combination of these keywords in certain areas to determine whether or not your site is really, legitimately about that search term. So if they look at your site and they say, okay, the domain has Lost and it has podcast in the title, and the content is totally sprinkled with the words Lost and podcast, then it's going to give you a higher ranking and it's going to give you more consideration in a search term. So for something as competitive as, searching Google for Lost Podcast, you're going to need to have that in there to come up. So I'm not sure if it will apply as much to lots of other people. I mean, obviously something more specific that wouldn't be as competitive, it may not be, much of an issue. But for those who are interested in making sure that they can get the most out of their search engine optimization, it would definitely be a good thing to have podcast in the URL. So I just wanted to give you that. I thank you so much for your episode. It was very helpful. And I, too, can vouch for the quality of overnightprints.com. They do amazing work. And I thank you so much for all your help and hope you have a great day.
Evan, thank you so much for your feedback, sir, and all that great information. I hadn't even thought about that, but it is absolutely true. And because I will be honest with you, when I'm searching for a podcast on a particular subject, sometimes the very first place I'll go to is Google. It's not always iTunes. There are only two places I ever go to search for a podcast anymore. And one is iTunes, but the one I'm more frequently drawn to, because I always have a browser open and I just have a Google little toolbar up at the top, or in Firefox, it's just automatically planted up there, a little search box. So I would type in, if I was looking for a podcast devoted to the TV show Lost, I would type in Lost Podcast. If I was looking for a podcast related to, let's say, Photoshop, I would look for Photoshop Podcast. If I was looking for a podcast on nutrition, I would type in Nutrition Podcast in Google. And absolutely, if you had a podcast that you had a nutritional podcast, you could definitely get a little bit more traction if you had the name nutrition in your show, and also you use the word podcast in the URL. So dailynutritionpodcast.com something like that would definitely gain you a little bit more visibility in Google. So wonderful feedback there. And by the way, thank you for just giving your little plug there at the end for Overnight Prints. And by the way, as of this week, I now am officially signed up as an affiliate with Overnight Prints. And in fact, I've updated my site over at podcastanswerman.com. On the right-hand side, you'll have to scroll down just a little bit, but you'll see products I recommend. And there's the Call 8 voicemail, 1-800 toll-free service that is very inexpensive and a great way for podcasters to get their voicemails out there. Overnight Prints, there's a link there. Adobe Audition 3.0. It's an expensive program, but in my mind, it's worth every single penny. And also some wonderful themes if you're a do-it-yourselfer. Links to all of those things. And when you click on those links, they are affiliate links, so that if you click there off of my site before making your purchase, it gives me a little bit of a credit here as well. So I'd appreciate that if you're considering any of those services. All right, so let's see, where are we going next? Next, I have an email. This comes in from David Heron. He wrote in and says, "Hey, Cliff, I almost signed up for the webinar, but looking over the topics, I believe I know how to do those things and wasn't clear on the, what all would be included outside of, how to hook up all your equipment and stuff." He says, "I have a question," which he's not sure if the webinar would have addressed. Maybe it would, but maybe it's good fodder for your Podcast Answer Man show instead. You mentioned in a recent episode your editing time is about 20 minutes. Is that for a 1-hour show? If so, how so? Basically, I understand your workflow is to record directly to an external digital audio recorder and to play audio effects in real time throughout the show. It sounds like you take the MP3 file directly out of the audio recorder, do a small bit of editing, and add some ID3 tags, and boom, it's out on the net. However, for me, editing takes about 1.5 the episode length. So basically, if it was an hour-long show, it's taken him about an hour and a half to edit the show. This is because I do lots of ums and rambles that I want to remove. That means listening to every minute of each episode and snipping away as I go. I'm guessing you have an ability to open your mouth and speak useful content that doesn't require much editing, and that's a question. And of course, there goes my my Twitter direct message. Cool list of the best Twitter. Okay. So anyway, I got a direct message on Twitter while I'm recording my episode here. I forgot to mute it. And here's your answer to the question, David. First of all, yes, we did cover my process. Basically, we recorded a sample episode during the webinar, and we went through the entire process of how I edited the file. I showed various different software packages that could do that, and then we uploaded it to the internet and released it out there, and I showed the entire process of how I tagged the files. Now, with your question, here's the deal. Number one, I've over time gotten better at getting straight to the point of what I'm talking about. There are a couple things you can do to really help you out in this area. Number one is, before you even hit the record button, write yourself an outline of what you want to talk about. In fact, in front of me, here's what I have. It says I'm using a Google Documents page here, and it says podcast episode number 114, and it's going to be, I already know it's going to be titled "Show Some Love." And I've got a little thing here. It says I got a voicemail from Evan Agee for the pro side of using podcast in the URL. I've got the entire text of your email that I just wrote. Next up it says Wayne Henderson call about Pretty Links plugin. Then right after that it says show a podcaster some love.mp3 audio file with Wayne and I. And then the last one, it says Wayne Bloom testimonial fade in music at the end. So that's my outline. That I know exactly what I'm going to say. And so for the idea of going on and rambling about something that I might want to remove, I occasionally do that. But to be honest with you, most of the time, if it's my rambling, like I'm doing right now, it's a part of what was on my mind, and most of my podcasts are about what's going on in my mind. What do I think about a certain thing? And that's why I personally do not go the scripted route. Now, I've done some scripted stuff, but the only time I really do scripted stuff is when I want to record something that is more along the lines of something that's going to be used for like a promo at the end of a show. In fact, let me see if I can pull one of those up. What I'm about to pull up here is definitely, actually, you know what? I moved it over here. And see, I used to want to pull out like what I'm doing right now. Right now, I am going in and I'm searching for a file, and I'm talking while I'm searching for the file. Is it driving you crazy? Probably not. Will it drive somebody crazy? Maybe. But you know what? I think they'll probably get over it. But here I am. I'm taking some time to do something that I wasn't planning on doing before, and I'm finding an audio file here, and I found it. So right here, if you listen to this, first of all, you got to hear me search for this file, and it was in real time, and it didn't take up too much extra time. And no, I'm not going to come and edit this out. Now, I will tell you, right after the intro of this show, I basically screwed up. I was like, okay, here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about this. We're going to talk, and in this episode, we're also going to talk this. I'm going to share this. And then I said, and then I'm going to do this. And I talked, basically, I was going to introduce the fact that I was going to share a testimonial from a client that called in, or somebody that called in as a potential client. And I decided I wasn't going to start the show off by telling you that I was going to play a testimonial at the end, although now I'm telling you that I did this. So what I did is after I decided not to do it, I stopped mid-sentence, and I just left a long pause, like maybe as much as a 10 or 15 second pause, so that there's a silent space in there. Very easy for me to go back in the editing software and just wipe out that one spot. And basically what you heard was, but let's go ahead and get things started off with Evan Agee. And so that's what you heard. You didn't hear the part where I left the long pause and stuff like that, because that's going to be wiped out in my editing process. But here's what it sounds like when I'm totally scripted, and it sounds like a commercial. And so here's an example of something that I scripted for the end of all my free episodes of Pursuing a Balanced Life. Check this out. You have been listening to a free episode of the Pursuing a Balanced Life podcast. I'd like to invite you to leave comments and feedback on the blog at pursuingabalancedlife.com or by calling in on our listener feedback voicemail hotline. You can call direct at area code 859-795-4067 or call toll free by dialing 1-800-757-1158. This podcast is a production of the Generally Speaking Production Network. Want to learn how you can help support this kind of content? Would you like to know how you can receive every episode of this podcast as well as all the other shows we produce? Please visit www.gspn.tv/plus to learn what GSPN Plus membership is all about. We invite you to join the community. Now that is a very produced piece of work right there. I wanted to get something that fit within a very short time frame, getting lots of things involved in there as far as information. And if somebody missed something, I just figured, well, you'll be able to go back and back it up and get that phone number. Here's another one. This is how I end all the Plus member episodes. These are the premium subscriber only episodes of that same podcast. Listen to this. You have been listening to a Plus member-only episode of the Pursuing a Balanced Life podcast. I'd like to invite you to leave comments and feedback on the blog at pursuingabalancedlife.com or by calling our listener feedback voicemail hotline at area code 859-795-4067 or toll free at 1-800-757-1158. This podcast is a production of the Generally Speaking Production Network. If you enjoyed this show, check out Family from the Heart over at familyfromtheheart.com or the Full-Time Mom Podcast over at fulltimemompodcast.com. There's also the Almost Daily Devotional, which you probably guessed it, at almostdailydevotional.com. Of course, you can browse the entire network of shows that we produce at www.gspn.tv. Thank you for your Plus membership. We couldn't do this without you. Together, we'll move forward as we encourage others to join the community. There you go. So there are times when scripting is absolutely essential and rambling is not accepted. There's just no way I could ramble on and just do a little bit of a little outro station ID / intro kind of stuff without clearly writing down word for word what I'm going to say, and then going in and editing out all the little ums and the ahs and stuff like that might possibly show up. But when it comes to the actual content, the meat, the body of my podcast, I am not a perfectionist when it comes to that. I am a perfectionist overall, but no, I've learned that I don't want to spend an hour and a half editing this show. And so I noticed a couple times a little while back in this episode, I actually mentally was processing and thinking about the fact that I threw in a bunch of ums into this show. I can't remember where it was, but I going back, I remember during the recording of this particular episode, I was using a lot of ums, and I'm like, why am I doing that? I need to stop that. And so I've stopped using the ums. And that's something that I have learned to do over time. And if you want to learn how to get rid of the ums, get comfortable with silence. That right there. Exactly what you just heard. Silence. I don't have to feel. I don't have to fill every single second of what I'm doing in a podcast with audio. I've become more comfortable with silence over time. And so it's okay. As I think about what I'm going to say next, I can just let it go silent for a minute. And if I really get upset about the fact that there's silence in the show, I could easily go in and just edit out silence. It's a lot easier to see a flat line, such as that silence right there, as it is to go in and pick up all the the ums and the ahs in your recording, because that is a pain in the butt to edit out. And so what I would say is get more comfortable with silence. It drives people crazy. As a matter of fact, it used to drive me crazy to do that. And the first place I ever really, really noticed this was with Leo Laporte. Leo Laporte has been in broadcasting for many years, and I listened to his Tech Guy radio show. Now, when he does his Tech Guy radio show, he's a solo guy. I mean, he brings in guest interviews and stuff like that. But unlike his podcast, where he has co-hosts to kind of bounce conversations back off of each other, so that somebody's always kind of talking. When he's doing his radio show, I noticed that he's alone most of the time, and when he's not taking a call, he talks kind of like this. Well, today in the show, we're going to talk about, we'll take your call. I mean, it's technology. Technology can be anything. Really, it's been a slow week in technology this week. Did you hear about what Apple did? I mean, that's how he talked. And for a second, there was one time, and this is where it finally dawned on me what was happening. There was one time where he took such a long pause. I don't know if he pushed a cough button, or if he muted his microphone while he was having a coughing fit, but it was silent like this for a very long time. And what I thought was, it's like, I looked down at my iPod and I'm like, oh no, it's still playing. I thought, did I not get the full episode? Did I miss some of the recording? What happened? Where's Lee? And then he started talking again. And there was and so what I recognize is that this is how he has trained himself to get rid of all the ums and ahs, or as much as you can, as much as he wanted to. Now, the thing is that in regular conversation, now that you're listening to this, go have a conversation with somebody, a regular, normal conversation, and listen for the ums and ahs. They're there in normal everyday conversation. And so you know what? As a podcaster, you're editing your show and you're being so much more critical about what you're saying than your listener will be critical about what you're saying. Now, if you're nervous when you're podcasting and you're doing the then yeah, you're going to want to go and edit some of that out. And so if anything, that's one of the things that I've learned is I've trained myself over time to number one, become just a little bit less perfectionist. There are times when I'll go through and edit. For example, I know that there is a good 10 to 15 seconds long pause at the beginning of this recording, and it is going to cause me to go and edit that spot out. But as far as editing is concerned, unless I mess up between here and the end of the show, that one edit point will take me all of about 4 seconds to run out of here. Then I use Adobe Audition as I'm doing this, and I showed this in the webinar. And I showed people how I would have to fix a show as far as audio levels and stuff like that using Adobe Audition. And then I showed in Audacity or other similar programs. And then I showed how easy it was with one click of a process in Adobe Audition that, boom, the entire show is processed. An hour-long show takes about 7 minutes to process. I hit save. I do edit the ID3 tags. I shared the software and the, why I fill in certain tags that most people forget, like lyrics and stuff like that. And then I showed myself uploading it to the service that I use. And then I showed how I take it from that service and paste it into WordPress, and then how that gets put into the RSS feed. And then I show how quickly that show is available and downloads right into iTunes or other various software packages, and how it's immediately available on the site. And I went through that entire process. So yeah, I think there is some value there if you're wondering how to do these things and kind of speed things up. There is a lot of things you can do, but an hour and a half per 1 hour episode is exactly how much time I used to spend. And now an hour-long episode takes me all of 20 minutes from as far as hitting the stop button until where it's on the internet ready to go. This podcast, when I'm finished with it, when I hit the stop button at the end of the show, within 20 minutes, this podcast will be online in the podcast feed, and my local copy put into a folder that's archived and that is backed up via external drive. And by the way, I still need to get an online backup system through Mozy or somebody. So anyway, David, I hope that answers your question. Yeah, I think that pretty much covers all of that. So let's move on to the next caller, which is Wayne Henderson.
Hey, Cliff, this is Wayne in Southern California calling for the podcast Answer Man, and that is you, my friend. Hey, I wanted to ask a quick question. I've noticed, and correct me if I'm wrong, it looks like you're creating a lot of your own kind of short URLs lately instead of using the tiny URL service that the rest of us are currently using. I guess there's some people, a movement that, tiny URLs could be dangerous, and so doing it your way and making your own that are tied to gspn.tv would definitely be the way to go. Now, since I'm using WordPress, the Revolution site that you helped me set up, thank you very much, just like you're using WordPress, is that easy to do? Like you're, just as an example, you would do gspn.tv/ and then you'd have just like a 4-letter site, and then I think forwards to another site. I'm not positive. I think that's how I saw it happening. If that's what you're doing, can you share us a little bit on how you do that? Because I'd love to do that with my own site whenever I need semi-short URLs that are semi-temporary or semi-permanent or something like that. Just checking in with the podcast Answer Man. Thanks, Cliff. Bye.
Wayne, thank you for the question and for the call, my friend. And since you and I had a conversation I'm about to play, I'm not going to answer that directly right now because it becomes quite evident what that plugin is. and what it's used for, and maybe I'll remember at the end of this little clip here, for the next 9 minutes and 48 seconds, I'm going to take a breather while I play for you a pre-recorded conversation that Wayne and I had about a special project that they've been working on. Wayne Henderson and his friend, our friend Jeff Roney, had been working on, called Show a Podcaster Some Love. And it's something that's just now getting started, and there I am. And see how it's something that, let me show you how I could have done that. It's something that's just getting started. And why don't I go? I don't know. Forget it. Why don't I just go ahead and play the button here? Well, folks, I got Wayne Henderson on the line here. Wayne, I understand you want to talk about kind of like an online movement that you and our friend Jeff Roney are looking at starting, and I wanted to give some promotion to it here. Why don't you tell us what it's all about?
Absolutely, and we appreciate it, Cliff. Jeff Roney, fellow Southern California podcaster over at RoneyZone.com, and myself have kind of been really doing the push for this grassroots type of movement called Show a Podcaster Some Love every Thursday. And, the best way to show a podcaster some love is free. Leave them an iTunes review, call into their voicemail, leave them a message. You've talked about both of those things quite a bit, so you definitely know the importance of those things. Kind of how the whole Show a Podcaster Some Love every Thursday started, and Jeff Roney wanted to be here to share it himself, but he was about to get on a plane, so he gave me a quick call and gave me some things on his side of it. It's actually two things that have kind of come together. Jeff Roney and a friend of his, Scott Roshi, I think he does the spiritualtramp.com website, both wanted to kind of find a way to help podcasters. And at the same time, I went to an Inland Empire podcaster meetup and chatted a little bit with Victor Cahiel from the Typical Mac User podcast, and he, emphasized the importance of iTunes reviews. We got together with Jeff Roney, and we both kind of put these two things together. One, his desire to help podcasters, and then my desire to help podcasters in a way that we all need these reviews. So we spearheaded the effort, Show a Podcaster Some Love every Thursday on Twitter and on Facebook. And, originally we were thinking of doing it in a way where people could just come to our website, but we thought, why not use social networking like Facebook and Twitter and have the information go out to people and have it come to them and make it as easy as possible for podcast listeners to share their love. So we've all set up some special pages on our website. For me, you can go to mediavoiceovers.com. And if you're a podcaster and you want more details about Show a Podcaster Some Love, just go to my blog page. It's the most recent post. Going to keep it the most recent for a while. And if you're a podcast listener and you want to share some love, kind of got this tip. I just made a special page, mediavoiceovers.com/iTunes. What Jeff Roney's got going on over at RoneyZone.com, he spotlights a different podcaster every week with their website, their email, their voicemail number, their iTunes link, the whole shebang, so it's all in one spot. And if a podcaster wants to maybe be one of the featured podcasters on Show Your Podcaster Some Love Day for the entire week, and in fact, it kind of just scrolls down for another week, just go to RoneyZone.com/show-podcasters-some-love-day, or just RoneyZone.com and scroll down at the bottom. You'll find the link there.
Definitely love the idea, and interesting. I'm interested in seeing where this might go. A couple things that I would love to just bring out real quick, and it's something that you and I talked about a little bit earlier. You're using WordPress just like I am, and how I suggest most people use. Have you installed the Pretty Links WordPress plugin yet?
Not just yet. I learned about it from you just the other day, and that's on my to-do list for when I get time this coming weekend, because that is fabulous. How does that... Is it easy to use, that plugin?
It is. It is so simple. You just do the plugin, activate it, and basically what it is, for example, let me just give you an example. If anybody were to go to gspn.tv/PABL, which stands for Pursuing a Balanced Life, it's going to actually forward them automatically to pursuingabalancedlife.com/PABL, which is the explanation of my my hashtag meme for Pursuing a Balanced Life that I've started. And what's really neat about this is if you were to go to gspn.tv/iTunesPABL, and if you type that in, it will automatically take you to my iTunes page for Pursuing a Balanced Life. PrettyLink is a way that you can create short URLs, and so that you don't have to say something hyphen something hyphen something hyphen something hyphen something else, and you don't have to say category /this/that.
Exactly.
It's just, you could just do mediavoiceovers.com/ and then something like one word to kind of abbreviate it, something that's easy to remember.
Definitely, and I am going to look into that because that's invaluable. I know Jeff Roney was using I think it was a tiny URL or something, but I didn't know if that would, if those age out after a couple weeks or not. So I thought I'd just give his full address on that.
Sure, I don't think that they actually age out. However, I do know that PrettyLink does not. So, and not to mention the fact that you're branding your own site. So I think there's a lot of value in this. PrettyLinks is what it's called. And I'm going to put a link in the show notes for this episode of Podcast Answer Man. Tell me a little bit more. Have you guys thought through about how we could maybe turn this into something where, podcasters are promoting other podcasters to act? I mean, how do you get people to get involved? How do you create or elicit a response to this?
That's the $3.2 million question. It's and any ideas that you may come up with, we definitely want to hear them. It's just kind of started small. It has picked up some traction on Twitter whenever we will make some posts on Thursday and on Facebook about it being Show a Podcaster Some Love. We do get some other podcasters who will retweet that. We have seen some, iTunes feedback coming from that, and even a couple of voicemails as well. And so we'd like everybody, every podcaster who's breathing, which is most of them, to follow us on Twitter. Roney's ID is RoneyZone, RONEYZONE, and I'm TIWWH. That way, follow us, and you'll see on Thursdays we'll make little tweets about this, give you little links on how to get involved if you'd like to be a podcaster to be featured, or if you want to just retweet the information. Plus, Jeff Roney does some fun little music games and things like that as well.
What I think would be interesting is if this could be something that becomes something more of its own standalone identity. And I'm just tossing this out there, but to where Show a Podcaster Some Love might have its own Twitter ID where people could follow that, and it's a little bit a little bit more of a third party kind of thing, and its own website where it's kind of like let's get together as a community and promote each other. And,
exactly.
And I see some real possibilities there, because back in the day when I first signed up with Libsyn, they were teamed up and connected very tightly with this company called Kiptronic. And Kiptronic was supposed to be like a dynamic insertion of advertising and this mechanism stuff, and it worked for a while. I back in the day when I used to concern myself with advertising, I used to have DirecTV and Time Warner Cable insert some advertising in there dynamically. But what they had was the ability to do a promo exchange between podcasters, and that was awesome. And so I don't see anything like that happening as an as an organized effort. And so if there's anybody that's going to show a podcaster some love, I really believe at the heart of it, it's going to be podcasters. And so if we could band together and show each other some love, and by that I mean, leaving each other say, hey, you know what? This Thursday we're highlighting 4 podcasters. And these podcasts, and here are their links in iTunes. And as a community, we podcasters would go in and say, you know what? Okay, I'm going to go and leave a positive 5-star review for these 4 podcasts.
Kind of a pay it forward kind of thing, I guess.
Exactly. And
excellent idea.
Something like that. I mean, the possibilities here are really cool, and I really like this idea. I think you guys are onto something here. And I'm hoping that it turns into something that becomes like a huge community effort between podcasters.
Oh, definitely. I greatly appreciate you having me on the Podcast Answer Man show this afternoon. It's one of my favorite podcasts. I never miss an episode because I get all kinds of ideas and information and just little hints and tips every single time.
Folks, you can find Wayne over at mediavoiceovers.com, and you can find Jeff Roney, who we've been talking about, over at RoneyZone.com.
That's right, because right now he's a few thousand miles up in the air.
Exactly.
Or a few thousand feet, I guess.
Hey, Wayne, we'll talk to you soon, my friend.
All right, thanks, Cliff. We'll talk to you later.
All right, so there you go, folks. That is the conversation I had with Wayne. Show a podcaster some love. I like the idea here, as I said, and I've had a little bit more time to think it through, and still believe there's some real possibility there. And one of the things I was talking about before is that promo exchange. I really do miss the promo exchange that Kiptronic once had and stuff like that. I'd love to see some more organized effort there. But that's all things I said in that pre-recorded interview. So why don't I just move on and tell you how you can show this podcaster some love? You want to show me some love? There are a couple ways that you can do that. One is that you can interact with the show by leaving your feedback and comments and questions for a future episode of Podcast Answer Man. That, of course, can be done by voicemail, preferably, or audio feedback that you email me at feedback@gspn.tv. As an audio file attached. However, if you do want to call in, you can do so. Call in directly at area code 859-795-4067. And also, if you do not have unlimited long distance or free long distance on your cell phone plan, you can call me directly through my 800 number at 1-800-757-1158. The reason why I'm all flustered here is because the fact is I should be doing all of this while my extra music is playing, because I have my whole 3-minute and 30-second music ready to go. But I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'll save the rest of the old, advertising pitch and all the other ways you can show me some love right after I play this little bit of a testimonial from Will Bloom, who called in. And I guess what happened is he called in on my website, and he, I guess, was under the impression that I'm some big, huge corporation here at podcastanswerman.com. And, well, he basically dialed the phone number off of the website, which, I'm understanding more and more. A lot of people are choosing to do business with me because, as a result of a Google search, because my phone number is right there. It's on the site. And people prefer doing business with me because I am reachable, and that's the way I want to be. I want to be there for you when you need me as much as I can. And if I'm not there, you leave a voicemail, you get a call back pretty darn quickly. That's for sure. So anyway, he called in. He talked to me. He had some questions he wanted to talk to me about the possibility of buying some equipment, which, to be honest with you, I have no doubt in my mind that if I wanted to, I could have not told him about some alternatives that I shared with him. I could have guaranteed a sale of a JK Audio broadcast host, which, by the way, is a $459 piece of equipment. I guarantee you I could have sold that piece of equipment to this person, making myself a decent sale of audio equipment, which would have been great for me. However, listen to this. Now, again, he thinks that he called and talked to a corporation where he talked to an employee or an associate. So have a listen.
Hey, Cliff, Will Bloom. I'm calling from Jacksonville, Florida. I spoke with one of your associates last week and inquiring about equipment, and he directed me to TalkShoe.com and was very friendly, very informative, and, for my purposes, TalkShoe was all I needed, and he didn't take advantage of that, and I just wanted to thank you for that and let you know I appreciate it.
One of my associates. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, that was the other Cliff Ravenscraft that answered your call there. But yeah, absolutely, folks. That's what I'm trying to. The whole point of playing that is to let you guys know that, for me, sure, I'm in this to make money. There's no question about that. I got a family of 5 here that has a roof over our head, and we like to put food on the table. And, we're pursuing this whole balanced life, trying to eat more healthy, and well, that's just not cheap. So, yeah, I'm in this to make money, but I'm not in this to make money from people when when they think they need something very expensive, but really with what he was wanting to do, he did not need the additional quality of sound as compared to what some other folks need. So that's why I try to tell people is listen, when you're looking for equipment, I don't put buy now buttons on my website. You won't be able to go to Podcast Answer Man and just order something by clicking a button. I want to talk to the individuals, make sure that they're getting what's right. So of course you can call in at area code 859-795-4067 and leave a voicemail for the Podcast Answer Man, or calling toll free at 800-757-1158. But if you really want to show this podcaster some love, why don't you throw some business my way? You heard those little promos, or not those promos, but you heard those little extras that I play at the end of the Pursuing a Balanced Life podcast. You want one of those? Give me a call. We can talk about a price of putting one of those together for your show. You can play it at the end of every show. Or maybe you want to put together like a promo and have me do that little audio piece for you. Are you looking for a website? Do you need a website makeover for your podcast? I got a client that called me the other day, and he's looking for some equipment, and all he wanted was to order a Edirol digital recorder because he definitely had heard a lot of great things about it. And sure, I sold that to him. And when he says, I've got some additional questions about a website for my show and stuff like that, and I gave him, I probably spent about 20-25 minutes with him just telling him all the different things he could do and the way to get it all set up and what hosting accounts and stuff. And I said, you know what, if you're interested, since you haven't started, it's a piece of cake. Why don't we set up a consulting call? And it'll probably take anywhere between 2 to 3 hours. But what we'll do is we'll go from beginning to end. I'll do a screen share with you using my GoToMeeting account, and basically we'll set your site up for you. You'll actually watch me every step of the process, but I'll set up your hosting account. I will install your WordPress. We'll design your theme. We'll get your feeds set up through FeedBurner or whatever plugin you decide to use, and then we'll put you into iTunes, and you'll be set to go. And we'll probably still have a little time left over to answer any additional questions you have. Those are the kinds of things I can do for you guys. Call me for your equipment and stuff like that. This is my cell phone number I'm going to give you right now, 859-757-1399. Give me a call, 859-757-1399.